even confused. It's enough now. We're taking the power back. We're stronger than before. We're proud or too strong. The worst is over. From Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar. From Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Azapo Online Political Education Plan. And here we are with the leadership of Azapo discussing local government elections. And as you know, the country is up and about, canvassing and preparing, the voter for, election of, councillors that are going to look after our local government. And Azapo is a participant in this election. And today we are navigating the Azapo Manifesto, looking at what Azapo promises people of this country. And with me this afternoon, I have comrades Thulani Mayekiso, who is the Provincial Chairperson of Azapo in the Gauteng province. And along with him is comrade Masikane Mapena, who is the Provincial Secretary of Azapo at Sonwabo Ngale province, and what you may know as the Eastern Cape province. And I also have comrade Ngoako Moyaha, who is the Provincial Chairperson of Azapo in the Limpopo province. And welcome and good afternoon, comrades.
Good afternoon, comrade Ashe.
Thank you. And I've seen you crisscrossing, various areas of the country and, preparing the organization and preparing the voter for, electing appropriately and making a promise to the voter of what Azapo is going to give the electorate and citizens of the country. You've made a couple of promises in the manifesto as you were doing the crisscrossing. And maybe I should, start off, by asking you, what is Azapo's promise? What are you promising the voter in this 2021 election manifesto? Maybe I can start with you, comrade Ngoako Moyaha. You are muted. If you can just unmute.
Thanks, comrade, and thanks to the viewers and listeners. As Azapo promises the electorate a trustworthy and reliable leadership. If you give Azapo an opportunity to lead any municipality, you will see trustworthiness, and whatever we promise will be done. But Azapo also tells the beliefs in particular that the local government elections, more than any other elections, are extremely critical because of the delivery nature of the local government. It is the wing of the government that is extremely close to delivery and to the people. And it is for this reason that Azapo believes this is one structure of the government that must be strengthened, that must have all resources. And that is why, as Azapo, we continue to say the wasteful provincial governments that are glorified homelands in some way should just be done away with. And we take all those human and capital resources to the local government. Then you will see a lot of efficiency and so on. And this will be provided that we deal with corruption. Azapo must be able to deal with corruption decisively in such a way that even those who were tempted to do wrong things will be afraid of. Once an Azapo comes to any local government entrusted by the people, will immediately do justice by opening the books and see whether people got in the past years the services that were due for them. Did we get value for money in terms of a tar road that was made 2 weeks back, and you found a pothole as you drive through the same area that 2 weeks back was working? I can give you that example in Polokwane in one state. But this is what Azapo, among other things, promises. Azapo promises to strengthen any local government that Azapo will rule over by encouraging communities to take over ownership. They must, and that is why the theme of our manifesto is restore dignity, take back the power. But what do you mean by that? If people and the electorate understand how powerful their vote is, that they are able to recall any public representative who does not serve the interests of the people, then that will earn the voters a lot of respect. We, as Azapo, say any other public representative that does not serve the interests and give regular feedbacks to the municipalities, to the communities where they serve, they will be recalled. Azapo also is consciously aware that we live in a country of unequal. We have a lot of unemployment. Our people are staying in Mikuku. And once you see a settlement of Black people, you don't need to ask anybody, because you know those Mikukus are by design meant for us. To this end, Azapo says, the spend, all public spends of any municipality that will be run by Azapo will rotate within that particular municipality, unless it's a very critical service that we cannot get. But they shouldn't be, because in Azapo's way, we think of introducing the skills development centers. The skills development centers in any community, you go to anywhere, it be a township, it be a rural area, there is one man who builds and is trusted by the community that he can build a house that will withstand all storms and issues. There is one plumber in that community that is reliable. There is one electrician in that community. So Azapo says, these people should be able to form what we call a building corporates. Building corporates, so that whenever there is a need for housing developments to be done within that community, these are the people that do the work currently, but they are paid by somebody who comes from elsewhere, who's not even known in the community, and are paying them doing the same work. If they had a corporate, they will be doing it themselves. That is why Azapo believes that to enrich and better the life of our communities, money should circulate within the communities in which Azapo will be ruling. And to this end, in particular, when we talk of houses, Azapo believes, because we don't recognize the provincial governments, will be able, as Azapo municipality-led municipality, to negotiate with the central government to create what we call a state-owned housing department. We know the state enterprises have failed, and the failure is not a coincidence. It's not lack of knowledge, it's not lack of skills, it's deliberate to continue impoverishing our people and making the elite, few individuals, to be rich. We say this state-owned housing entity should be able to work in hand with what we call a housing fund. And this cooperative, the building cooperatives, can then, because they are skilled, we've got evidence that these people do their work. They are the one who work when a certain Simpuahashe got a tender. And these are the people that he employs. So they are able to get funding from this particular fund, housing fund, and do the work within that very local municipality. These are some of the critical things. And you don't have a dignity once you live in a community where sewage, runs openly in that community. We have such communities. You can't say that community has got dignity when children play and over those things. Azapo believes that quality, clean communities are possible, but there is just no will to do it within the current status quo.
Wow, that is a mouthful, and I think it's important, for the purposes of our listeners and our viewers to understand what it is that you are promising. That I think we dive in and dig deeper to what you are giving us, and maybe Comrade Mayekiso, help us unpack this. You talk about dismantling provincial government. You talk about in essence, making local government your pillar of service delivery, and you talk about participatory democracy as some of the promises that you are making to our people. Can you help us understand this and unpack it for us in a sense that we can easily understand?
Thank you so much, Comrade Tashe, and thanks very much, Comrade Pat. I think you said it so well. I could not say it any better than you have, touching on all aspects of a functioning and even a malfunctioning machinery of a municipality where we see failures. And right now trying to pose my response to the question directly of collapsing what we don't believe is necessary. We believe is just an unnecessary state of governance, wherein you've got the provincial government, which in our eyes are just another 9 Bantu stands that we don't need, making a bulk of 10 governments, 9 so-called premiers who are presumably all the presidents of their respective provinces. So it's really an unnecessary expenditure, looking at all the budgets they get, the salaries, and they are nowhere close to implementing anything that needs to be implemented anyway. So we in Azapo have said it time and again, that this is an unnecessary tire of government, which should be collapsed. And in that way, it brings the national governance closer to people. And we can even take the resources in the form of human resources, the skills and the know-how and the knowledge that is sitting predominantly unused at that tier of government or at provincial level. Bring it closer to where it matters most, where the tire hits the road, which is service is needed at the municipality level. And I don't need to remind anyone of how many and how often, how many municipalities and how often have we seen budgets of the municipalities being returned to the department that provides the budgets. So turning back the money that they could use, and while the services have not been rendered, and even the little bits that they have used, it has not used efficiently in the sense that it has leaked somewhere. So this is a proposal by Azapo which would eliminate that completely, because you would have actually not only brought resources, you would also have brought skills and the know-how and the knowledge to apply and multiply service delivery to various communities in municipalities. Thanks.
Just to take it, thanks. Just to, before you disappear, just take it further a little more. You want to dismantle provincial governments, and as Azapo is saying, let's do away and bring governance closer to the people. You're effectively creating unemployment, aren't you? Because if you look at the amount of people that are working at provincial government, what is the plan? What is the strategy? What is the thinking? Because with the dismantling of provincial government, you are actually contributing to the creation of unemployment of those individuals and adding them, to the numbers, the huge numbers of people that are currently unemployed. And this country is reportedly one of the highest countries that has very high unemployment rates, considering that we're sitting at close to 50% of people in this country unemployed, and you want to dismantle provincial governments where you have a number of people employed. It's well and good that you are bringing governance and reinforcing local government, but the downside to it is that you are also contributing to unemployment. How are you planning to address that?
No, perhaps just...
Okay, no,
all right.
Yeah, you can take it.
You can take it, Comrade Moyaha, but before you take it, I just wanted to make a point that with such an undercapacitated municipalities, you might at face value think that you're creating unemployment or you're adding to unemployment. But we know that we've got seriously undercapacitated municipalities for starters, and we also have got these initiatives that we're talking about as Azapo of creating housing boards. So those skills will not be left. Those skills will be actually used in there. And they can also close the many gaps that we do have in many municipalities. So, Comrade Moyaha, you can actually have your say as well.
No, in fact, this I agree with you, Comrade Mayekiso. But in fact, this is where many people do not understand. This is where many people do not understand that the abolishment of provinces has got very little, in fact, if nothing, if not nothing, to do with government employees employed at that level. Those who are working in Department of Health as nurses and so forth, those who are teachers and so forth, has got nothing to do. What we are talking of here is political administration. What is it? What legal, law or bylaw that can be passed by a provincial government that can, oppose, that can antagonize the national parliament? All we are saying, the waste at provincial legislatures is too much. In Limpopo, for example, it goes, I think, over 17 billion per annum. And that includes the staff there, that includes the MECs, that includes their vehicles, that includes their securities that they go on, that includes their benefits, and quite a number of things. So do we really need? And these are just a few individuals that consume the bulk of the budget. And these individuals, if indeed they are skilled and replaced by an administrator, will still have service running. They will be deployed elsewhere. But we don't need a MEC of Education, for example, who cannot say anything against the National Minister of Education. Do we really need MEC for health? What is it that cannot be delivered by ordinary employees at the department, at the local, provincial level, employees that are professional to do that job? But otherwise, we've got a lot of politicians whose job is to create factions and opportunities for looting. Looting is more effective at that level and instructing even the service delivery tier of governance, the local government, to do so. So we say, as Azapo, very stand firm on it, that we do away with provincial legislatures, provincial political office bearers. But anybody who works in treasury will still have work to do because they are not necessarily politically appointed.
No, thanks for that, Comrade Moyaha. Comrade Mapena, Azapo speaks of, participatory democracy. You want to involve communities in decision-making, and you want, people, to determine their destiny, so to speak. How do you propose to do this? Because your manifesto is very, centered on, community involvement in the decisions that impact people. How are you going to do that?
Thank you, Comrade Ashe. And well, let's firstly start here and say that as Azapo, we are saying currently we are having a system. I know we have a system of the councillors going back when they do the IDP, and we are saying that is not enough. You cannot be only going to consult the community when you do the IDP and it ends there. there is a sphere that needs to be there that we think in Azapo needs to be included, which is of reporting back the progress, and then for us to understand how the government is doing things and how far things are that are being done. And we are saying, therefore, in Azapo, our councillors, in a municipality that is led by Azapo, the ward councillors and the council itself will be having a continuous meeting with the community to highlight this kind of issues. This is an issue where you will even be saying that when the community feels that these councillors that Azapo you have provided us with, for instance, as ward councillors are not satisfactory to us, are not delivering the services that we need, and they are not representing us to do what we want. Because those people who have been given a clear mandate will have given a feedback to say to the community, this is how far we have gone in what we had agreed upon in the IDP. And the community will be able then now at that given time to assess whether this councillor, this municipality is going to the direction that we want. And if the community feels that this leadership is not taking us to the route that we want, this is where Azapo comes in with something that is not there currently. It exists, but Azapo, this is where we commit ourselves to say that if the councillors that have been elected and you as a community, you are not happy with them, you have the right as a community to say that we are not happy with this and we want to recall this councillor. Therefore, if immediately from there, you will be able then that your councillors understand the responsibility that they have of saying that whenever with this task that I've been given, it's not just for me only to satisfy myself. I have to lead people, report to the people so that I can be able to move forward. We also currently have the so-called ward committees, which are very apolitical, and then you will find that those committees are used as a stumbling block towards the development of the community, where a certain organization, if it feels that we need, these are the only people who need to be in that committee, no one. In an Azapo, we are not going to subscribe to the community who's supposed to be in the ward committee. We want a very broader representation for the ward committee so that we can be able to interact with the people and ensure at the end of the day, the needs and aspirations of our community are represented and then are taken forward by the community, by the council. So that is the kind of the leadership that we are bringing as Azapo for the local government as currently is, so that we can be able to interact and move people forward.
Yeah, thanks for that, Comrade Mapena. Then, Comrade Moyaha, you are creating a problem for Azapo. Because Azapo is, it may be in charge of the municipality, but it is not in charge of determining what happens, with those councillors. You may say, no, it's well and good. This Azapo councillor is not fulfilling his mandate, and you are recalling him, and forgetting that, it was not your decision for that councillor to be there. It was a decision of the community. And if you are deciding on recalling that candidate or that councillor, it still has to be determined, not by Azapo, but by the community, by by people in that ward from whom that councillor belongs. So if you say to me that if Comrade Mayekiso coming and you have determined that he is not doing what he's supposed to do and you want him recalled, effectively, you are invoking a by-election. You are effectively saying there must be a by-election, and there is a likelihood that you may have created a possible lack of confidence in Azapo's ability to deliver. How are you going to ensure that Azapo first retains its seat in that ward or in that council, and secondly, you run the risk of losing that seat to another political party? Don't you think you need to be protecting the seat that you would have fought so hard to get?
No, I understand where you come from, comrade, but protecting the seat that Azapo struggled to get should not be done at the cost or expense of the community. And this is the confidence that Azapo wants to give to the community, that once you have this power, that we say, take back your power, even if Azapo has given you a candidate that you ultimately elect as a council, we have what we call in Azapo pledge that all our candidates are signing. And we've got what we call a memorandum of understanding, which we will be selling to the community that this council should be able to give you feedbacks on the happenings within the municipality by monthly meetings convened by the councillor in all wards should happen. If this does not happen, and Azapo sees and knows it's not happening, and this councillor wants to be bigger than Azapo and the community, why should we have it? Azapo rather lose that seat and have somebody who can serve the community, because if the community gets serviced and we have no delivery issues and we have everything running smooth, even if it is not done by Azapo, it is done for the dignity, restoration of dignity of the Black people. Azapo should say hallelujah. So that is why we say, I don't think we'll be creating, yes, a problem for Azapo, but that shows that nobody, no individual should think he is bigger than the organization or the community. I'll give you an example, comrade, of where I think when the community understand how powerful their vote is. 3 weeks back, I visited a community, Omutse. It's the other side of Provincial. It's in Limpopo, at the border of Limpopo, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. The community called Thulani community in Mutse. That's where this popular choir, the Ndlovu choir, comes from. You know, they called a meeting. The councillor, what did not even come in that meeting. They don't honor, because the community understands what they do themselves outside of the councillor. They can show you communication that they even did, you know, communication that they made with National Department of Water and Sanitation, that this is what we want. And they can even show you that they've got NPOs that has able outside of the municipality to have about 21 tanks to supply water to the community. Because there is water that passes by from, what is that dam? I forgot the dam. From that Loskop dam, water passes through that community and not getting into the community. But the community, you can see they're in control, they are in charge, they are in power here. And the development that is there is amazing. It's amazing. And when I saw that community, I thought of my own home community where I was born and bred, that, you know what, if the other strength that that community has, the strength of, you cannot do crime in Mangat, my community where I was born, because the community is so much united against crime. And anybody who does it in that community will feel the pinch, and they will hunt you and they will get you. But unfortunately, the system and the police will protect the individual. I agree that will be creating a problem for Azapo, but if Azapo cannot manage the public representatives that are meant to serve the people, let the community take charge and have somebody who can service them better. It is better to have a councillor outside of Azapo who will be a problem to the community in Azapo than to have any other person who will serve that community.
Well, I hear you. I want us to progress this conversation forward. And Comrade Mayekiso, you know that whenever you hear the word corruption, there is a tendency of, for some strange reason, associating that word with Black people. They are, when you hear corruption, you say, oh, there is a Black person involved. And you belong to an organization that espouses Black consciousness and that, promotes Blackness and that talks very positively and about Black people and Blackness and, wishes that we continue to do so. And now you are saying to Black people out there and to generally everybody out there who is eligible to vote, trust this Black organization. Why? Why should people trust you as a Black organization and everything Black is associated with corruption? And why do you think people should give their power, their vote to you, how are you going to deal with the scourge of corruption in this country?
Thank you, Comrade Asha. Well, it's an unfortunate circumstance. It's an unfortunate circumstance in the sense that, yes, we have a black government in the way that is set up. And we have a black government that has, made itself so unpopular and took so much marks from it by espousing corruption and doing it openly, such that it has become a norm. Corruption is actually very destructive. And we are an organization that prides itself with being black and our own understanding of black and through black consciousness philosophy. And now we've got this momentous task of psychologically making people understand that not everybody who says black is black, or not everybody that looks black is black, but that's now a topic for another day. The scourge of corruption is aligned with us, and we have got a big and a huge task of disassociating it with us. This comes with people that are above the law, whether they are black or white. But in this case, it's simply because majority of people in government are black people, and corruption is rife within them and within their families. And it doesn't say that there are no black people that are anti-corruption. For an example, we in Azapo are anti-corruption. We firmly believe that there are good women and good men out there that are against corruption. We have to promote them. We have to promote the spirit of being anti-corruption. We have to promote the spirit of more selflessness than being selfish and being above the law, and trying to serve ourselves than serving the society and the communities that have elected us. So it comes from greed. Corruption is multiplied by greed. And this is what we have to deal with. So Azapo has got a task. It's got a task to, amongst itself, its members, its leaders, and the community, to select people of high integrity, people that are forthright, fortitude, people that are trustworthy, and put them in position to be a good example. We have had a few examples internally in Azapo. We have to multiply those so that we put ourselves in a position when we take over the governance of the country, starting with the municipalities, we are starting on a very positive and confident stage of running a clean governance. Right now, might sound like a pipe dream, but it is possible. It is possible. Firstly, we have to defeat greed amongst ourselves.
Now, comrade, I think this question it needs to be answered in details, because that's the challenge we get. In fact, even this morning, I was telling one provincial parliamentarian of the ruling party that your shenanigans are making it extremely difficult for us to tell black people to have confidence in us when we interact with them. It's very difficult, because they tell us of that very thing that you ask, that very question that you ask, comrade, that no, you are the same. But the reality is, comrades, the current constitutional democratic dispensation we have is a consequence of corrupt activity. So it cannot bring anything that will be ethical. Who knows what was negotiated at Codesa, Captain Park Trade Center for that matter, when our union liberation was triggered off? Who knows what were those things? We talk of dignity as an organization. You cannot have, and all liberation movement agreed, the liberation movement agreed, they just differ on methodology of attaining the goals. We agreed that the struggle was about political power, it was about the economy, it was about the land. All we got was to be voted and to vote. But the land issue still remains. And anybody that is landless, worse off in your own country, you cannot talk of dignity. And because the foundation itself was not a foundation of stone, that concrete. What is it now that we can point that can be a patriotic thing to drive all South Africans or Azanian together, irrespective of religion, irrespective of political background? Nothing. We went further with the negotiations and say we create what we call the Truth and Reconciliation, so that we can allow those who stole the land and resources and everything to keep it for themselves. Those who killed people now to be pardoned, even if they did not acknowledge their deeds. And that was saying we need reconciliation, even at the expense of justice. And that is what we told them. So people are getting used to that. People say these things, people are used to that. No, justice is nothing. And I think this is going to be a long road for us. But I'm happy I can tell you. Yesterday, when I attended the funeral of my cousin, young two engineers, they talk of how ethical they want to do their business, how ethical they do their business. Because we cannot talk of corruption run in the government without the corruptee. This black government that is corrupted by the corporate, the Wusasas. These are the ones that are, influenced, corrupted, or influence corruption. So in any corruption issue, there is a relationship of a corrupter and a corruptee. So corporate is not necessarily very clean. And that is why when it comes to issuing of resources and so forth, an organization like Azapo will never see support from, because it will refuse to be told what to do and where to take tenders and so forth. But we know that he who pays the piper calls the tune. And this current government is disabled, it's handcuffed. And that is why some of us call it the government of Omajigila.
No, thanks for that. And you've mentioned a couple of issues that I want to explore a little more. One is, the issue of land, and the other one is the issue of, the tender system that I want us to, to talk to. But even before we go there, Comrade Mapena, why should we be talking about land and land issues when we are talking, issues that are impacting, people on the ground, local communities? Shouldn't we leave, the conversation about land and land issues to, to next year's elections when we deal with, national elections? Is that not a matter for national competence and Azapo, dealing with that at a national level rather than at a local level? Why is it important that we talk about land when we are talking about local government?
Let's Comrade, let me start. I would have wanted to add on the issue of corruption. Of the thing that I think is lacking mostly in the issue of corruption before I answer this question. I think the most key thing that has contributed to where we are, there are two things. The first thing is that Comrade Moyaha has already alluded to, which is the issue of the tendering system, which is rotten. And this is the system where all these people sit and then start to discuss. This is a process we in Azapo say it needs to be open to the public, and a process whereby it should not be done decided by only the politicians behind closed doors, and then when they decide it. Once you have it open to the public, there is no one who will want to be at the end of the day to be pointed out and said, you have contributed to what is currently taking place. And the second thing that is lacking currently is consequence management. We had people being found wanting on several occasions. You will talk about internal auditors finding people that they have done wrong. You will go and then find the public, the Auditor General finding the same thing from people, but you still find that no consequences have been done to those people who are being involved in those things. So I think currently the current government, what we lack is those two, is the serious one is the consequence management of people who have done wrong, taking back. So if you can, when we agree now, you say that we have done something wrong and consequences have to be taken. I don't think there will be anyone walking proudly so with the corruption that is taking place currently now. You will have people having done something wrong being told that you need to repay back the money of the state. Where people were then when you take those people out of the system, those people who don't get their pension fund, that pension fund gets taken back and then become the state money, so that people at the end of the day can understand that as a leader where I'm currently in, or as a bureaucrat, as a technocrat where I am sitting, anything that I do that is against the law, there will be consequences to me. So that thing also contributed to that. Now, to the question that you are currently asking about the land, it starts with the municipality at the local level. The land is, you cannot wait for the national government to tell you that we need to discuss, because the housing that we are talking about that needs to be delivered are delivered at the local level. So you need that land to be doing that at the local level to be delivering houses. When you talk about, you will go to the sea, and I know that this will be saying that this is a competence of the national government, but there are places, there are areas in the regions where they have the mineral, your marine resources that can be used to develop the community. So the local government can be using that also to advance its own needs at the local level. So for me to say that the land, we should be waiting for the national government to pronounce on that and act on that, I don't think it will take us any further. You will even currently see even the land that the municipalities are owning currently now, because the current municipalities that we have don't have the interest of the black people at heart. I taken those lands, some of them are being sold for golf courses, which is, when you go to that route, you know, there's no black people who are going to benefit out of that. It's just for white people to go there, to distress there, but us as black people, we cannot afford to be part of that. So for me, this is the land that, the land issue cannot be reserved for national. Locally, we need to be engaging and then retaking this land back so that we can advance the development of black people.
Now, that's an interesting dimension that you're bringing, Comrade Mapena. You know, Comrade Mayekiso, what I found interesting, especially when it comes to, you know, aspects of spatial planning, since the new government came into power in 1994, you know, I have been praying and hoping and wishing that there would be a structural change in how, you know, the demarcation of land happens and how spatial planning is done, so that we can, you know, give people, you know, decent spaces to live in. And what you find, instead of, you know, people being spatially demarcated in areas that are close to areas of employment and that are close to, you know, where, you know, economic activity is happening, where shopping is happening, and, you know, you see extensions happening further and further and further away from where people should be. Is it not a question of, you know, the extension and the embedment of the apartheid, you know, special development? Is it not a question of, you know, the architects of apartheid being happy that, or being annoyed at the fact that, you know, they allowed this process to drag on? I mean, had they known that, you know, this country would be managed in this fashion, they probably would have given in to a negotiated settlement in 1975 instead of 1994. Don't you think, you know, we are extending and embedding, you know, apartheid decisions by the manner in which we spatially plan for our housing, spatially plan for, you know, our livelihoods as a people?
Well, fine, thanks. I understand you. I think Comrade Mapena.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. All right. No. Thanks, God. I'll like now, Comrade Moyaha. But before I forget, I was just, when Comrade Moyaha was addressing the issue of corruption and corrupt-minded people and how it has infested our communities in a scary way. He reminded me of a discussion I once had in a taxi. I think it was 2009, with a 21-year-old who was active in a youth structure of the ruling party, and boldly saying that, for an example, if an MMC has been given 3 million rands to do a project in the community, and he happens somehow to have spent 1 million rands, why all the halubalu about the 2 million rands that is missing? You've got what you wanted, so what happened then to the balance of the money? It's none of your business. So he's got no feeling or no sense of understanding the deep sensitivity of corruption that he is manifesting here, because he is entrenching a culture of non-accountability, because he doesn't want the community to question anything that gets done by the person that should be serving them. So those are the dangers that we live in, and those are the dangers that Azapo should actually phase out. And the comrade Mapena is talking about addressing the tendering system, which is flawed and fraught in a scary way itself. I've got a friend who is in the tax industry, who it has become common for him to open a company, and open a company, help someone who is politically connected and of course connected to the ruling party, open up a company simply because that there is a tender coming out very soon. Doesn't have a clear what the tender is about. He knows the tender number. He doesn't know what needs to be delivered, but he knows he just wants to create a company as a caption so that it can capture the money. He does what he wants to do with the money, and then the rest of the money he can pass on to a service provider who can do the job. That should have been who should have got the money in the first place. So he's forming a conduit for himself and his friends to make money out of the suffering of the poor people who are in the majority. But coming to your question, Tawa, it's a sad state of affairs. It's a sad state of affairs that makes you look at it and say, indeed, had these white boys known the apartheid government, had they known better, they would have allowed those who have got no ambition of changing the lives of Black people around to actually take over the administration of the country as early as they could, had they known this. Because we were actually isolated, closed out of the main economy for specific reasons, and it continues even today. In fact, I think the housing department or the project of housing people has been overtaken by events such that people have seen it fit to occupy vacant, spaces of land on their own, such that government then would follow up with their own, services, provide this and that, whatever they can actually provide. But there's no sense of proper planning and allocation of land together with the resources for the people, for the future occupants of that place. It's more common to find a satellite police station coming over, a satellite clinic or mobile clinic being provided to people who have already housed themselves in a temporal structure that would be made permanent later. So it's actually a continuation and a perpetuation of what had been going on, because our people now tend to put themselves everywhere else, and in many instances far from where they should be working. But on the other hand, Comrade Gasha, speaking to the land, and the land being the competency of the national government, not quite, in the sense that, let's make an example. I live in Mfuleni, a municipality where it has become prevalent for politicians to buy big acres and acres of land. The farms that are being sold, some of them don't even buy them, they actually acquire them in their own ways, and they convert them into cemeteries and burial sites. And if you actually look at the numbers and look at the figures, we found that Mfuleni or Isitibeng is one area where the burial sites actually cost an arm and a leg. They've actually increased double-fold. So our death is now being made business by selfish politicians. Thanks, my time.
Thank you. You know, I wanted to check with you, Comrade Moyaha, that if you look at you know, the present tendering system, it is so open to abuse, largely because of the fact that you have to enable those who are in governance of the local municipalities to benefit from, you know, the budgets that they approve. And as a result, whatever people do to obtain, you know, or to provide extended services that municipalities wouldn't be able to otherwise provide, you know, they have to, you know, sweeten and fatten the hands of those who are decision makers at these municipalities. And this perpetuates corruption. How are you going to resolve the tendering system in the local governance of our country?
I think it is a problem. And even the ruling party and their colleagues in Labour and the communists agree that this is a problem. And they've been agreeing for more than 20 years, but there's no will to deal with this. And you'll hear the unions, despite the fact that they have failed to win on doing away with the labor broker, they still say, no, we are fighting inside, let's continue to vote these people. There's just no will. When they go in there, everybody thinks of positioning themselves. But an Azapo-led municipality will not go and buy toilet paper that we can get from any local supplier, for that matter, through a tender system. Why should we do it? And that is why we say to Azapo-led municipality, we will deliberate. These things need to be deliberate. You need to say intentionally, we are going to develop Black communities like this. They are within the community, encourage people to form corporates, to do, for example, tissues. Encourage people, give them land to do agricultural corporates. And that is why we say we also need to have what we call skills development centers, so that we can also skill and train them, these people who already have what we call the building corporate that can do this thing. We skill them, we train them in terms of business running and so forth, and we give them mentorships so that within so much a time, we'll, you know, that corporate can now run. We have given them a mentor that Azapo-led municipality will pay to ensure that and we give him a target. It's just not going to be a target. We need to see this particular corporate developing, becoming independent, you know, financially viable. You know, you have to teach them non-financial courses for them so that they can just be able to read the balance sheet, a simple thing like that. But the tendering system should be done away with. And where there are, you know, important jobs like roads construction and so forth, we should be able to say we can employ people. The apartheid government were employing people to do this, and, you know, giving them, unlike hiring a person and so forth, and having our people being abused, paying less and less of the skills that they put out. Tendering system, we are not going to tender to buy paraffin and petrol if we know we can buy it at a wholesaler next door. Let's say cooperatives to Azapo and skills development, making sure that deliberately, and making sure that the municipal spend, we should have a reason to spend outside of municipal. That's the skill that we do not have. Then we can say, this municipality does not have skills within, then let's go and spend outside. Otherwise, the rent must rush within that municipality before it gets out.
Okay.
So tenders to a Azapo-led municipality is a no-go.
I hear you, Comrade Moyaha. Comrade Mapena, you know, earlier on, you were talking about possibly setting up a housing company or a state-owned entity that enables the development of or the construction of houses for people, and so that people can rent and others can have decent housing. But as much as I do, that state-owned entities in this country have collapsed. I mean, you look at virtually all of them. There was a time when state-owned entities were things to look up to, and everybody wanted to work for a state-owned entity, and everybody was looking up to these entities serving and servicing our people. And right now, it doesn't matter who you talk about and what you talk about. You look at ESCOM, where I spent many of my time there. It has collapsed. You look at virtually all of these state-owned entities, and now there you are as Azapo saying we must add another one, a housing company that will enable people to build decent houses. Why?
Thanks, Comrade Ashe. I think the first thing that we need to understand is the fact that the collapse of the state-owned entities is intentional. It is a man-made decision to ensure that, to make us believe that they don't work. Yes, I agree. There are those that a lot of people were being seen to be saying that these are good things, you need to be working in there. As much as others will have been calling it a monopoly area, that, for instance, when you talk about ESCOM, that it has a monopoly to produce electricity, but it was doing that for the state. So the intention was that ESCOM has to be broken down, ensure that it is seen as a non-functional entity. That is how currently now you see a lot of white people and those so-called black people, the non-white, taking the route of going to form their companies for supplying of electricity, because now we have realized that ESCOM is not reliable in supply, because now they realize that that was the monopoly that was in the hands of the state to provide, to ensure that the services are being provided. So currently the intention is to ensure that these government institutions don't work, so that at the end of the day we can give up and say that we as a state, the state cannot provide us with anything. Therefore, the private sector.
Yeah. Then if that is the intention, why do you want to establish another state-owned entity? Or is it something that you want to milk for yourselves as Azapo, saying, okay, once we get into government, everybody has been milking, and we also need an entity that we can milk, establish our own housing company. People will think of you as adding another problem to an already big problem that afflicts society.
No, I think I agree with Comrade Mapena, Comrade Ash, that this is intentional. The collapse of this is intentional, simply to, when people talk of state capture, capitalism itself by its own nature has captured us from the creation of this constitutional democracy. We need to understand it that way. They have. The Afrikaners, in addressing the poor white problem, they created these state entities, own entities. ISCOR, you'll find at the gate an Afrikaner security guard who does not even know how to write his name, but he was employed.
Yeah.
So you'll go to any one. Post office, when they were created, they were intentional to help. They were not necessarily profit-making. But what our guys did, they saw this as an opportunity to loot resources, to the party, and secondly, to themselves. I mean that is why, probably because those that which they were looting, there's nothing to loot any longer. They are struggling to pay even their employees the huge salaries that they were doing. But there's nothing wrong. And there is everything wrong with the way South African Airways is being restructured now. And tax, people saying they are buying it now, but you don't even know how much they put in now. And then the state must still help them. And you look at the number, and hence the strike that we saw last week. The number of managers at that one, and the amount of money that they pocket vis-a-vis the employees who are expected to take 80 to 35% salary cuts. These are deliberate, comrade. The deliberate collapse of VPS is disappointing, to say the least, because there's nothing wrong in VPS being a bank that benefits the community, the unemployed, the aged, and so forth. But instead of strengthening it, people went and took money out of it. Made money by societies, by what? That's the only way that which we believe we can achieve as Azapo, stretching the rent, empowering communities, can be done by really bringing in state-owned entities. But that must be controlled and ruled by people with conscience, because we've got people that rule us. Yeah.
No, thanks for that. And we are in conversation with comrades Ngoako Moyaha, the provincial chairman of Azapo in Limpopo, comrade Thulani Mayekiso, the provincial chairman of Azapo in Gauteng, and Masikane Mapena, who is the provincial secretary in the province of the Eastern Cape. You are more than welcome to engage with them, fire at will, ask whatever questions you have, and they are here ready to govern and ready to answer your questions. And there are a couple of questions that are coming up and that people have that you comrades must answer. And I think the first one that has come up is a question about the use of technology. What do you think about the use of technology to enhance service delivery? So that is one question that has come up, and linked to that question, what is your view or approach to organic homegrown IP design and engineering, as well as manufacturing and trade initiatives within the sphere of local government? Maybe if we can deal with that question, it would be great. And there's another one that has come up asking what is the aim, the aim is to ensure that we create competitive products both for Africa and international business. So we do need home designed products, like home designed vehicles, for instance. What is your view on the organic approach to homegrown technology, and how do you plan to use technology to advance service delivery at our communities? If we can start with those, Comrade Mayekiso.
All right. I think the first question about homegrown business initiative is most appropriate in actually advancing the business sector, particularly young people, because that is the space of IP wherein the younger generation have got more flourishing ideas. And Comrade Moyaha has actually mentioned it as several times that is where we need to capture the ideas, house them in a manner that they can be developed. So it then becomes the competence of a municipality that wants to improve and upgrade youth intentionally, to have an economic desk that will drive that will invest in that and make sure that it thrives. So it's actually a good initiative. It's a good question that needs to be attended to.
I agree with this. These are critical questions, comrade. But these are the questions that these are issues that will not be implemented by people who do not have the love of the people they rule. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm staying in an area where, citrus area, oranges, tomatoes, you name them, they get exported outside of the province. We don't have any processing company that can do that. and then later you come and buy tomato sauce that come from elsewhere now. Why can't we, in the province, an agricultural province with this natural resource that we have, so is create a processing company so that it can create employment for our kids? We will talk about unemployment, but to do practical things, we don't. Why can't we, as a country, with so much of natural resources, diamond, gold, you name them, where do we process these things? Nothing. We still come and buy a diamond ring from another country with the natural resource coming here. So deliberately, we are not in charge. Why can't we? For example, and I'm sorry to mention this, but I met one person some 2-3 weeks back, I think, who worked with Ndate Manyana when he was still the Minister of Science and Technology. And this is an African. It's so painful that, you know, I was in the T-shirt of Azapo in Pretoria. He said, Mona, do you know this and this person? I said, yeah. You know, what a gentleman, what a patriot. You know, I worked with him in the electric car development, manufacturing of car. You know how that thing failed? I said, no, that man has never told us of this. He doesn't, I don't know why, because possibly he doesn't. But these Afrikaners tell me now that, you know, we were recruited. We had probably a place where we could be now. Gauteng, the whole Gauteng should be running on an electric car. But it was sabotaged by the current status quo in collaboration with the corporate. Don't think that an assembly, car assembly in PE will allow an electric car to run smoothly and take business out of their mouth. Employees at that level, this Afrikaner person who saw me in an Azapo t-shirt tells me that we were recruited away to sabotage this particular project. Many of us, including Black people, left, but I was one Afrikaner who remained to say, I wanted to see this thing going on. Country, South Africa, we should be having the whole of Gauteng running on electric car. There is something wrong with our conscience. There's something wrong with us. And anybody who has bewitched us should really be sympathetic to us, because we are refusing to do things better for ourselves as long as my family and my kids are better off. And that is why when they are caught with their hands in the till, their children, in the cookie jar, their children are always implicated. Wrong. We teach our children something wrong.
Mapena,
So
you know,
it is doable. Technology can be done. And this just, tell me, Comrade Hash, with so much, what stops us? Every community where I come from, a traditional place, a traditional office, a school, a church, any public facility to have a free Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
What stops it? And we think a child growing at my village will be at the same level with somebody who grows up at Sante when they go to bed.
Yeah.
No, it can't be. These other ones still struggle technologically. But if we have leadership of conscience, of love, of passion for the development of their country, we should be having any other community. We should not be struggling with that. Huh? No.
Yeah.
But it is about the type of leaders we have. It's fine. Until we really feel the thing, we will remain in this way.
You know, Mudisa is commenting about this conversation. He's saying, you know, local economic development units are dysfunctional in municipalities. Township economy is dead. Foreign nationals are the only ones running successful businesses in the townships, and they protect, you know, those terrains. I mean, you saw what happened in Kwestin in Kabeja not so long ago with you know, some of the, you know, foreign nationals attacking you know, the taxi drivers there. They are running tuck shops which were sustaining many households in the townships. What will be your role as Azapo in this situation? Can we reserve some businesses such as tuck shops, hair salons, and such, reserved for South Africans? Because really, he says, the focus of this discussion is more on province and national issues. And he had thought that you would talk about, these dysfunctional municipalities, lack of drinkable water. I mean, if you look at what is happening in areas like Citibank, for instance, where when was it 2 years ago, Mayekiso, that, the army was deployed there, to...
8 months ago.
Yeah.
8 months ago.
Exactly. So lack of drinkable water, you think of areas like Makanda, Mapena, where, drinkable water has been a problem. Potholes, I think it's very fashionable. It doesn't matter which township you go to, you would see, potholes, across the streets, sewage running in the streets, corruption in municipalities, high unemployment rate. He's basically asking you as leaders in these provinces to tell him what your plans are to resolve these issues.
No, I agree. I mean, the Kabeka foreign thing, if we don't take it serious, in few years' time, that will look like a picnic. It will look like a picnic because those people, to start with, how do you have foreigners who are not even proper immigrants? They are not even legal, owning, running a sponsor shop. And we all know, if I know, the intelligence and the president know that the monies are being collected from these people to sponsor things that will later. How do you have people with armaments that we saw displayed on national media, and then there's nothing happening? Those people are still not yet behind the bars. So it's just that it tells you that how captured the current government is, how unable to do this. And local business is so easy. Youngsters, they come with a lot of creative ideas. But obviously you need a little bit of capital. Go to whatever institution that is there to help govern and sponsor these youngsters, irrespective of good idea, and let them show you, just show you in one municipality how many they have helped to create a reasonable. I've seen wonderful business models brought by these youngsters, where money could be. Youngster says, I need to create a vegetable center where anybody who produce a cabbage can bring in, we buy bread, we do this and a center, and I consume local. But just to put up that smaller structure for 78,000, for him to get that loan is impossible. He needs experience of a business, and this is the youngster who has never been trained, but the ideas are sharp and bright. So it is our impoverishment that is designed by world over, supported and sponsored by those who look over our country. Foreign business, you talk of lack of water. You even say non-drinking water, non-drinkable water. I'll tell you of Mogalakwena. You say people talk of corrupt municipalities in the Eastern Cape everywhere. Please do yourself a favor and visit Mogalakwena. Community, if you don't have 35 rand, you can't buy. If you don't have 12 rand, you can't drink water, literally. And yet they talk of the mines that are in that community. They run every day. Water is not an issue. Yet the community that sits just next door to the mine struggle to get water. How does this mine get water that gets supplied? They will tell you there is a Flagbush yellow dam that they've been talking about in the past 17 years. Even today, it passes through. Corruption is so pandemic. I was shown in the community of Moyaha a water project, somebody was paid. And this candidate tells me, we took the municipality, the mayor, to go and see where the pipes were supposed to have been installed. They dig the soil, they dig the ground, and later on, just cover up. When they open, there's no pipe that passes through that area. Money has been paid. Really, how do you go to that level? The community where you reside in, it doesn't have water, and you deliberately know there are no pipes in here. You paid somebody. Hence, Azapo says, once you are a councillor or a public representative in a certain community or ward, thou shalt not leave that ward. If you leave, we recall and have somebody. We rather have by-elections loose than have somebody who will take advantage of the community.
All right. A couple more comments, coming thick and fast. And one is, would an Azapo-led council support withholding of all councillors' monthly salaries for poor service delivery? That's one question coming from Lusijo, and a couple of other comments. Here, how will Azapo deal with corrupt individuals, especially its own members? Corruption can be productive. Do we need an ethics code? And will it be implemented? I think this has been somewhat dealt with. And that's Labasa, yes, Gauteng. In my interactions in my community, 100% Black community has become evident to me that there is a sizable number of people who are fed up with the governing party. They indicate that they have lost confidence in Black people and would rather vote for a white-led party like a DA or Freyet's Front. Plus, and what are then not another party such as Azapo? What are the observations of the panelists in their respective areas? As much as I appreciate the focus on municipalities, my view is that looting and corruption are consequential. Azapo has a huge challenge to undo what the governing party has done to Black people, particularly in the rural areas, and the struggle must continue beyond local government elections. And here's Mohamed Singh saying, it's good to hear all the contribution from everyone. And someone would say, many oppositional parties are too much concentrated on the negatives done by other parties, which heightens them, and that's, free advertising for them, and that includes Azapo. It seems as, bickering about the obvious. Can Azapo stand firm confidently and sternly declare that they have leaders here and now who are ethical, disciplined, and have a servitude mind and have a thorough, intense strategy that focus on building positive pathways to communities, bringing hope and changing the constructs?
Let me start with the loss of hope. I think our manifesto speaks exactly to that effect. The fact that people have been disappointed is because they don't understand the role that they can play. That is why we are saying to people, restore your own dignity and take power into your own hands and change the way things are currently being done. The current system that we have does not give people the power to take and feel that they have ownership of the local councillors that they are. They are being served by. So that is why we are saying currently now, to change that situation is because the fact that people are being frustrated by the councillors that are serving them, who are not there to serve them. They only see them now when they elect them, and they will probably, some of them will be lucky to see them during the IDP meeting. Some of them, they don't even appear in those things. That is why when Azapo says, when he talks about the councillors, he talks about another sphere where they does not currently exist, but is not being currently used, where the community have an opportunity when the councillor that has been elected is not serving them to their own satisfaction. They have a rider to recall those councillors so that they can be able to elect people again that we feel. That is why Comrade Pet emphasized the fact that we want the councillors that are going to lead and be with the people. If we feel that we have a councillors that are not in there, we are even prepared as Azapo to go as far as even saying that let us go to recall our councillors and go back to the by-election so that the community can be satisfied and then be led and then elect the person that is going to lead them to the direction that they feel that they want to go to, which is the one that sphere that we are introducing. Secondly, the question about can we really stand proud and say stand our ground and have that we have ethical leadership that can lead this country? Definitely we are. we are still having leadership that is like that. I think Comrade, the honorary president of Azapo, Comrade Musuli Mangena, has shown that, has led its department. That is why even the people who were in that department, who are left behind, are still able to say that we have lost. It was leadership. It was a person who had the leadership, who was not interested in any other things, but to provide leadership and lead people to what he's supposed to be doing and to do that. So I think that that person have shown that this organization has leadership. We have a lot of them. The likes of you, Comrade Simpiwe, who has led the institution in an institution that you worked in at ESCOM. That is the ethical leadership. You left that institution without anything following you. That is the kind of the leadership that we are offering this country. And then we are saying to people, let's come together, let us build this country, and then ensure that at the end of the day, we have people who are prepared to lead you and then provide services to you.
No, I second Comrade.
Okay, go for it, Comrade Mayekiso and Comrade Moyaha.
All right. Comrade Moyaha, apologies there. I wanted to come in at the time Comrade Moyaha was making an example about a water project that never took place, and people bearing nothing under the earth, no water pipes and things. It always puzzled me as well, because these mines use a lot of water, which if you look at the community through which the water pipes actually are running would not use even more than 20% of the water that is being piped through, but water still is piped through past them and without providing them water. This I observed as well when I still had something to do with my Marula Platinum mine and those areas, and I used to take it lightly, but with time it actually sank that really this is happening where our people are denied a natural need and a natural resource in favor of big business. But these things have to be done. In fact, correcting this situation, it has to be done intentionally and deliberately. Comrade Moyaha mentions the fact that the sabotage. In fact, it's a huge sabotage of what would have been a great project for Gauteng and the country at large, of the electric car, which was deliberately pulled off. And you see this phenomenon, and it actually opens up your mind, because in a smaller scale, you have experienced something similar to this, wherein your comrades, with so much effort and selflessly would volunteer to make a community garden in which they were helping the school, working with the school kids. And all of a sudden, someone comes from the blind side and starts something similar and offering salaries. Thus, in a way now, dissuading and discouraging those that are volunteering. And as soon as they are discouraged and they stop doing, giving their voluntary work to doing this community work, the people who sponsored a project similar to theirs all of a sudden also stops doing it. So it tells you that the intention here was a sabotage of some kind. But I want to also touch on what Comrade Mapena was saying here with respect to an outstanding leadership that Azapo has provided in the past, and it still can provide. It all depends on us being through to the spirit of Black consciousness and what it instills on us. And we have had a good example. And I don't remember hearing any negative stories about any of our comrades who we have happened to successfully field at municipalities. So that on its own is a taste of what this organization can provide in terms of leadership. But coming to dealing with corruption, there was a question that says, what will Azapo do with corruption done by its members? I think that was the question. There's no other way of dealing with corruption than disciplining the corrupt people, the corruptee and the corruptor. Formally discipline them, make an example about them so that you create a trend and you create a precedence that you will not tolerate corruption. Thanks, Maita.
Just to add to what Comrade Mayekiso and Comrade Mapena have said around this thing. Azapo is so confident that it wants to offer our communities reliable and trustworthy leadership. The type of pledge they sign, makes them. We make sure that it is a legal thing. It's a legal pledge. It's legally binding. We can easily. They are not going to be above the party. And the memorandum of understanding that will be signing with every other ward or municipality where our public representatives are deployed ensures that happens. In Azapo, there will be nothing like a collective accountability or responsibility, where people will be seen defending a swimming pool as a fire pool, where people will not want to say we take collective responsibility for not knowing where the Alexander renewal funds went. We will not promise people million houses over what period when we know those are not done. Accountability in Azapo is personal and it's very clear. Once I mess up as a personal. Consequences I should take the consequences either from Azapo or the state, and in most cases, both.
No, thanks for that. And we're moving towards, the end of this conversation, but there are a couple of questions and comments that have come through. And as we close off, please make your summation in terms of your last comments, but also deal with these questions that are coming up. And one is, what is the position of Azapo regarding payment of tax and rates? Is it only those who are working and expected to pay high service and others not paying because they are staying in a certain area? So that is one question. And the other question coming from Sompisi, who is asking, do you think the structure of the state should be reconfigured to enhance efficient service delivery? And if yes, how? And Mkululi is asking, as we head for local government elections, should Azapo win a ward, is there a plan to revive local economy? Nondobeko is commenting and asking questions, is working within an already system feasible? How will we manage the blocks that will be put in our way to develop any of the proposed programs in the local municipalities? The funds are dictated by the current government, and they have already strong links within the decision-making structures aligned to the corrupt elements from top to bottom. The Black experience all over the world has identified that the systems and structures need to change. And this has been our clarion voice for many years. How will we be able to change this within a corrupt system? So those are some of the comments and questions that have come through. And I'd like you to give me your concluding comments. And as you do so, please take cognizance of these questions that have arisen. I will start with you, Comrade Masikane Mapena, and then move to Mayekiso, and then end off with Comrade Ngoako Moyaha, and then we conclude the conversation.
Okay. The issue of the current government, whether it is assisting, it is not. That is why currently we as Azapo were talking about the issue of disbandment of this is a structure that we have felt as Azapo is a structure that does not take this country anywhere. This is a structure that you will actually realize it is a structure that is there to promote tribalism, because it divides people according to their languages, where they are, they're residing, and you realize it perpetuated us. And so the current way of government, to us, it really needs to be structured. We have, from the onset, have always said as an organization that this currently, even to the national, that currently the way we are electing, that needs to be changed. We want a leadership that is accountable directly to the community. That is why we've always emphasized the fact that we need at the national level, even at the local level, we need mayors and the presidents to be elected directly by the people. Because now you'll be removing that cloud that Comrade Pet was talking about, where the organization comes and says, we will die with this individual because we have elected this individual. But because this individual will be elected directly by the community, who will be directly responsible and then working with the community to whatever it needs to be. So the current government needs to be reconfigured. With stage one, the mayors need to be elected directly by the people so that they can be able at the end of the day, if they want to take them out, they can be able to do that. And then as I close, I want to say to the viewers that here is Azapo coming to you to say, take back your power, restore your own dignity as the people. We are saying now, let's all go all out there to ensure that we elect the councillor that are going to be leading us be with us, that when we are not happy with those people that will be leading us, that we have an opportunity to recall so that we can be able to re-elect people. I think that is very important that we say to people, let's go out and elect the people that are going to lead you. And Azapo is saying to you, we are the organization that is offering that to you, and no one else can offer what we offer to you. Thank you, Kumi.
Thank you, Mayekiso.
All right, my child. I'm sort of a little bit distracted now, but thanks, Comrade Mapena. I think in a certain way, with the direct, the direct election of politicians into municipalities and the mayors, to be specific. You must have stolen my thunder there, because it's exactly where I was going. But what I want to say right now is that here is Azapo, and as it has been here before, and what now it promotes and encourages is take back your power, reclaim your power, because the electorate tend to think that they don't have the power. In fact, they've abdicated the power to those that they elect, such that they resort to saying, because we have not been served well, we will not vote, or because they have not been served well, or they feel aggrieved, they resort to measures like burning down the councillor's house or doing something terrible to the councillor and the councillor's family, while they have an opportunity once every 5 years to exercise their power, to remove those people that are unhappy with, and in a way also tend to paint everybody with the same brush, because for the past close to a decade, we've been living a life of disappointment, being promised this and that, but never been fulfilled. We took a different curve, which is also an educator kind of curve. It also is empowering in the sense that when we're dealing with Ward 27, Ward 28, 2 weeks ago, there was a prominent question of people who had been promised so many things. We know what tangent the election promises take. And here they are, after so many years, they have no houses. There's no schools in their area. There's rugged roads, gravel roads. What are you as Azapo promising us? And now this is what actually takes me back to what Comrade Moyaha said in his opening, that it is all that is negative, that is bad and negative is happening to us. It's because of a not resolute leadership. It's as a result of a leadership that is deliberately not servicing us, not giving us the service that we need, and they know it. It's because of lack of commitment on their part. There is no accountability, there's no trustworthiness. So here we are. The only thing we can actually promise you is that in reversing the damage that has been done, Azapo's starting point is giving you leadership that you can trust, leadership that means what it says, and will say what it means. So my wish from here is that Azapo walks the journey with its people through thick and thin, through bad experiences. Go in as leadership and members of this organization. Die if it needs be with your own people, shoulder to shoulder with them. Experience the good and the bad with them. Because I say this because there are areas in which we were confronted by saying, but where have you been along? Because we know. And people will tell you more about Azapo than you think you know. So there has been that gap that we need to seriously close in this organization, to be part and parcel of our communities, to be in their struggles, in their daily struggles with them, so that we win their confidence. We have their confidence, but I doubt if they have confidence in us at this stage. But we are all for them, and they should be all for us. Thank you, my child.
Thanks, comrade.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes. Azapo thinks all should be paying taxes and rates, but at the current, with the current status quo, it is not doable. It's not possible. We say as Azapo, and we have said this many times, and the governing party has always said a living wage is this amount of money. A living wage is determined by, among other things, the ability to pay taxes and rates. Azapo says, give everybody, including a millionaire, somebody there, the minimum living wage, so that everybody is able to pay rates and taxes. And then if you give them, some of us will have our tax brackets increased. And therefore, the taxes that will be paid will be, it is easier to do it that way. Then we don't have this other thing where we segregate, classify people by class and wealth. That's not what we want. And we say, because Azapo also believes in bringing back the pride and dignity of Black people, you can only do it by reviving the local economy. Locally, people, it pains, comrade, to see youngsters at the corner shops every day, in the morning, in the afternoon, as you drive home, you still see them there. And not that they like to be there. It cannot be their future. It cannot be how they will end their manhood or womanhood. So revive the local economy, bring back their dignity. That's the only way for us to survive. And indeed, lastly, I will take this opportunity while I thank the viewers, comrades, and friends, to appeal to you to kindly request family members, your friends, your associates, to give Azapo a vote. If for some reason they cannot give us a word vote, let them give us a PR and a district vote. Azapo deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrades, and that was wonderful. That was the provincial chairpersons of Gauteng and Limpopo, comrade Thulani Mayekiso and Ngoako Moyaha, as well as Masikane Mapena, the provincial secretary of the Sonabongale province, Eastern Cape, dissecting and unpacking the Azapo promise as contained in the Azapo Local Government Elections Manifesto of 2021. Thank you, comrades, for unpacking the manifesto for us, and thank you to the listeners and viewers for spending their afternoon with us. I look forward to engaging with you again on Tuesday. Connect with us again on Tuesday, the 19th of October at 18 hours, where we will be reflecting on the Black Wednesday, reflecting on Black solidarity, and I will be playing host to Sis Pearl Lutuli, as well as the Azapo President, Comrade Strike Tukwane. I look forward to that conversation, and for now, thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, Chawa. Goodbye.
No, thanks, comrades.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. struggle was not red. I experienced it, being deprived, being oppressed, even confused. It's enough now, we're taking the power back. We're stronger than before, we're proud, prouder to